At the Port of Grays Harbor last week, we talked with its executive director, Gary Nelson. Once the leading export port for U.S.-grown timber, Grays Harbor now leads the U.S. in exports of American-grown soybean meal. We started by asking Gary about the process of getting soybeans and soybean meal from the fields of Nebraska to the port on the coast of the Pacific.
AGPs are primarily, they own the facility and we operate it for them. They dispatch the rail cars, usually in unit trains. Soy meal has been primarily, but we're, with the advent of the new facility, hope to be doing some beans as well. The trains arrive here on the Class 1 railroads into Centralia, which is about 50 miles from here. One of the things that AGP really likes about the Port of Grays Harbor is that we're served by both the B and the UP, so they have access to both lines. They arrive, we start calling workers and we start unloading into storage or onto the vessel. And also we provide, in the fall we seem to get a lot of customers coming through, and we try to coordinate that with some of the supplier or farmer groups come through at the same time. So it's easier to come to Grays Harbor and meet the customer than it is to go to China or the Philippines. So,
what's the breakdown for soybean meal to soybeans to corn? I mean, rough estimate?
Well, rough estimate, historically over the first 10 years, it's probably been 97% soy meal, but we just really started the new facility, I think, in mid-December. We've done a couple of shuttle trains of beans so that we can do that, and it's really going to be market oriented. I think AGP designed the facility so that they can either go to soy meal or cake products or whole grains, just depending on what the market demands.
This port was, at first, very large in the timber industry. As big as you were in timber there, in the scope of that, how big is agriculture and soybeans and corn to this port now?
Well, we've been through a period of almost unprecedented growth, in a large part due to AGP's presence here. They're probably 70% of our export business right now in tonnage versus tonnage. They've really, I don't want to say replaced, but they certainly have helped us through the transition from being timber dependent.
How many shipments are going out each month?
Ooh, two to three vessels a month.
And these buyers are where, mainly? Mainly
in the Philippines so far, but we've had it go into Japan, we've had it to go into Southeast Asia. Australia's been a pretty decent market as well. Just it kind of depends on where things go. The facility was originally designed 10 years ago for identity preserved products, so that we do have that ability if customers are interested in that extra degree of security in their food chain. It's possible to do that here.
This port is owned by the taxpayers. What is the relationship between the port and the taxpayers?
The way I look at it is our taxpayers are essentially the shareholders. The county is about 75,000 people. The taxpayers have, through their tax bills, are the shareholders, and they elect 3 elected officials. That's my board of directors, who gives us direction and vision on where they want to see us go. It's kind of an exciting thing to think about, the equity that they've built up over the last 100 years. We just celebrated our centennial last year, and it's pretty exciting. It was created to provide jobs and local jobs, and that's kind of what we focus on.
How many local jobs are we talking?
We're probably responsible directly for about 20% of the county's employment base.
So that's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And agriculture is at the forefront of it.
Now very much so. We haven't traditionally weren't agriculture, but it is a big piece of it now.
What are the challenges? The infrastructure is obviously enormous. There are input costs, fuel costs are rising. What are the challenges you see on the horizon?
Trying to stay in front of the customer, but not getting too far. We just have finished about a $15 million rail improvement just to allow AGP to put more shuttle trains and more cars through. It was about 37,000 feet of track, but you don't want to build it too far in front of them. You don't want to get stuck with an asset that doesn't need to be built. And in that sense, we're very fortunate to have customers like AGP that communicate effectively with us, and also share the same kind of work ethic and integrity that makes this all possible.
One of the things I ask the Nebraska farmers is what they'll tell other farmers when they go home. If you're talking to a Nebraska soybean producer, because a lot of your soybeans are coming from Nebraska and Hastings specifically, what's the message you want to get to them?
that we can provide an alternative. I mean, we're not going to, you can't please everybody, but we hope to provide a value-added product that provides them direct access to their customers in the Far East.
Grays Harbor exported 1 million metric tons of soybean meal, DDGs, and other dry bulk exports in 2010. With AGP's expansion and construction of storage facilities, Grays Harbor expects to triple that number in the next 5 years. Next week, we'll show you more from our trip west, including our visit to Imperium Renewables, a biodiesel refinery capable of producing up to 100 million gallons of biodiesel per year.